Hi, I'm going to be explaining my concept map on behaviorism. Before I get into it, I'm going to describe the layout of my concept map so there's a better understanding of why I created it this way. So right here in the middle of my cursor, you're going to see the term behaviorism. And then there's going to be a left side, which explains classical conditioning, and a right side, which explains operant conditioning. The terms are in the black boxes, and linked to them are the descriptions or the definitions in the orange boxes. So let's get started. From classical conditioning, it's founded by Ivan Pavlov in 1927, and he's also the one that did the experiment on the dog and the salivation. So from classical conditioning, there are two types of responsive. There's an automatic response and a reflective response. An automatic response is when someone is taking implicit measures such as reacting without taking the time to think, kind of impulsively. On the other hand, we have reflexive response, which is taking the time to self-reflect before taking action. When having these two, the desired outcome is having a below level of conscious awareness, which means involuntary responses, such as salivation, decreased heart rate, etc. Another one could be nausea. When Ivan Pavlov did his experiment with the dog, the dog's involuntary response was the salivation. So moving on, we're going to discuss the neutral stimulus, which is something that produces no specific response. When a neutral stimulus is paired with an unconditional stimulus, which is a stimulus that provokes a natural response, it creates an unconditional response, which is a natural response. I'm going to give some explanations or examples later so there can be a better understanding. So also, when a neutral stimulus is paired with a conditional stimulus, which was once a neutral stimulus but becomes a triggered response, those two paired create a conditional response, which is an automatic response. So some examples of these, let's say there's a couple. So the boyfriend programs a song into the girlfriend's phone, but the song is a neutral stimulus to the girlfriend because she has no specific response. She doesn't even like the song. So if she were to hear the song on the radio, she has no response to it. It means nothing to her. When she hears a song on her phone, it means absolutely nothing. It's neutral. So when that neutral response, such as a song, is paired with the unconditional stimulus, that neutral stimulus, not the neutral response. When that neutral stimulus, such as a song, is paired with the unconditional stimulus, which is the boyfriend, those two, the song meaning having nothing that she doesn't even like, but the boyfriend, she loves her boyfriend, he makes her absolutely happy. When those two are paired, the response is unconditional, which results into her smiling. So we're going to move along. The conditional response, remember, was once a neutral stimulus. So the conditional stimulus is now the song. The song now triggers a response in her because she knows that song. When that song plays on her phone, it means her boyfriend is calling. So those two result in a conditional response, which means that she's thinking of her boyfriend. Now she's responding by smiling automatically. And also the definition of classical conditioning is two stimuli, such as the song and the boyfriend, linked together to produce a response in an animal or in a human. So moving on to the right side, we have operant conditioning. So operant conditioning was discovered by Edward L. Thorndike. And there was really no kind of attention on it, but later it was resurfaced by B.F. Skinner, who popularized the term. So operant conditioning is a method of learning behavior through rewards and punishment. So there are two types of operant conditioning, kind of the tools, which is negative, right here if you can see my cursor, negative reinforcement and positive reinforcement, that's one. And then there's also positive punishment and negative punishment. So right now, we're going to focus on the negative and positive reinforcement. So negative is to remove and positive is to add. A reinforcement is to maintain or increase in behavior. When you add those two together, the definition becomes adding or removing stimulus to maintain or increase behavior. Now we're going to move to the bottom. Like I said, positive means to add, negative means to remove. So punishment means to reduce or eliminate behavior. So putting those together is to add or remove a stimulus in order to reduce or eliminate behavior. So we're going to move on to the right side. Sorry, this word is hard to pronounce. Appetitive, which, so it kind of goes with appetite, something you want to eat, which is yummy. So appetitive is a stimulus that is pleasing or rewarding. So appetitive is a stimulus, right? Remember that appetitive is a stimulus. So when a positive reinforcement occurs and a negative punishment reoccurs, they use a stimulus that is pleasing or rewarding. So some examples of this positive reinforcement. Let's say you want a child to eat their vegetables, but before they eat their vegetables, you want to encourage them, right? So you give them a pleasing reward stimulus, which is candy. So that is positive, something positive you're giving to them. So positive, remember, positive is adding. So you're adding candy to their appetite. And reinforcement is to maintain or increase behavior. So it's for them to increase their intake of vegetables. So now we're going to move to negative punishment with appetitive. So let's say something negative is to remove, but you want to remove something that's pleasing or rewarding, such as TV. So if a child is not doing good in school, but they watch too much TV, so you're removing the TV in order for them to reduce or eliminate behavior, which is to reduce or eliminate, let's say, their tantrums or their negative school grades. So you want them to study. So those are some examples. We're going to move on to the left side, which is negative reinforcement and positive punishment. When these are used, the stimulus is called aversive. So aversive is a stimulus that is unwanted or unrewarding. So when it comes to negative reinforcement, such as the child is not listening, instead of, let's say, giving them positive words of affirmation, that's giving them something you want to remove. You're removing, let's say, their confidence, so you're yelling at them. And you're yelling at them so they can listen. So on the bottom, we have positive punishment. So chores. Chores is positive, but you use that as a punishment, let's say before your child can go out, or if let's say they are not listening to your directions and didn't do what you asked, you're punishing them. So you want to reduce and eliminate the behavior of not following directions by using a positive stimuli, but it's something that they don't like, which is chores. So that's kind of a brief explanation. Now we're going to move on to the bottom for predefined schedules, right here where my cursor is. So there are 4 types of schedules. We have fixed ratio schedule, variable ratio schedule, variable interval schedule, and fixed interval schedule. So let's start off with fixed ratio. Fixed ratio schedule is a reward that occurs after a certain amount of responsive. So let's think about a behavior chart. So when I use a behavior chart in school, each day a child shows positive attitude, great behavior, etc. They get 1 star. After 5 stars, they get a reward from our treasure box. So the reward, which is a treasure box, comes after the certain amount, which is 5 stars. So that's a fixed ratio. Let's move on to variable ratio, which is a reward that occurs after an unpredictable amount of responses. So my example is a slot machine. Many people go to slot machines to get the reward, which is multiple amount of money, but let's say the amount they use is unpredictable. They don't know if they might pull it once and they get the reward. They might pull it 10 times and they get the reward. It's very unpredictable. The third one is variable interval. So it's a reward that occurs after a specific amount of unpredictable time passes. So such as pop quizzes. So when a teacher says, we're going to have a pop quiz in 2 weeks, but the teacher doesn't mention what day within those 2 weeks the pop quiz is going to happen. Therefore, the students are studying throughout those 2 weeks so they can be prepared. it's unpredictable amount of time. So intervals have to do with time. So the last one is fixed interval, which is reward occurs after a certain amount of time despite attempts of responses. So let's say the reward occurs after every 10 minutes. Within that 10-minute time frame, you can be trying to get the reward, but that reward will not come a minute nor a minute earlier nor a minute later than those 10-minute time frame. Also, ratios are more effective than intervals, and variables are more effective than fixed. So kind of the most effective one would be variable ratio. This sums up the explanation of my concept map. I hope you're able to understand. This is kind of my understanding and how I'm able to kind of visualize the definitions of behaviorism. Thank you.